dear adventurers. It's Dozing Knight. Welcome back to another quiet evening of shared tales and wandering through worlds unknown. Tonight, we journey to a galaxy far, far away and dive into the luminous world of Star Wars. As we chisel away the mysteries of the cosmos, we discover the origins of an iconic weapon that has captured imaginations for generations, the very first lightsaber. In this episode, we will follow the footsteps of a humble engineer whose dreams were illuminated by the stars themselves. Living amidst the technology-rich lands of an ancient civilization, she embarks on a journey to harness the energy fields that surround her world. Her discovery is both magnificent and daunting, and it will become the catalyst for future legends. What secrets will her creation unlock, and how will her vision shape the course of history? Join us as we uncover this thrilling chapter of innovation and destiny. Before we begin, I invite you to reflect on the wondrous path of invention and creativity in your life. What tool, concept, or creation do you think has most profoundly impacted the course of history? I would love to hear your thoughts and musings. Please consider sharing your insights in the community discussion below this episode. Your voice is an inspiring part of our shared journey. If you're enjoying our voyages together, be sure to subscribe to the podcast to stay connected and never miss an adventure. Your support allows us to explore deeper and bring more enchanting tales to light. Now, before we leap into this starry narrative, let's take a moment to prepare our minds and bodies for an evening of gentle discovery. Close your eyes softly and picture yourself in an endless field of tall grasses whispering to the breeze. Inhale deeply, feeling the cool, crisp air fill your lungs, expanding your chest. Hold this breath for a moment, capturing the serenity of nature, then exhale slowly, releasing any tension you may hold. Continue this rhythm, like the ebb and flow of the tide, and allow yourself to become anchored in this tranquility. With each breath, feel the weight of the day drift away, as if you are a leaf gently floating down a river, carried effortlessly by the water's embrace. Your senses are free to wander, your thoughts ready to soar into the narrative yet untold. As you settle deeper into relaxation, let go of expectations and allow the galaxies of your imagination to unfold. Our story begins at the break of dawn, in a world where technology and nature intertwine, crafting the framework for a new era. Let the tale illuminate the shadows of your mind and guide you toward a peaceful night's rest. Jeddah's early dawn was a quiet, golden hush, the sort of light that washed gently over ancient stone and whispered along the wind-carved ledges. Standing at the edge of an unnamed plateau, a young Padawan named Lyra Paith pressed her hand to the weathered rock. She traced the spiral patterns etched by countless centuries of sand and time, her fingertips cool and tingling with the sense of history. The force hummed beneath every stone on Jeddah, and Lyra breathed deeply, as if drawing in the wisdom held here. The sky above shifted with blues so pale they almost seemed white, merging seamlessly with the horizon. Far below, silent city ruins sprawled out, their domes and towers softened by drifting mist. Lyra watched as sand runners, small, swift animals, wove between crumbling archways, their nimble paws leaving tracks soon erased by gentle breezes. A single dewback lumbered in the distance, carrying a pair of monks to their morning prayers at the temple of the Khyber. All life on Jeddah moved with deliberate patience, as though following the rhythm of an ancient song. Lyra pulled her robe closer, savoring the coarse weave against her skin. The Padawan's pale face, freckles scattered across her cheeks like stardust, glowed in the early light. Auburn hair caught the sun's first gleam, haloing her face in quiet glory. She focused on the way the wind smelled here: dry sage, warm sandstone, a subtle hint of ionized air from a storm that had passed in the night. Her senses stretched wide, savoring every small detail. Beyond the plateau, the world grew, layer upon ancient layer, canyons, whispering forests of stone, the bones of forgotten creatures weathered by millennia. As Lyra inhaled, she could feel the crystalline pulse of Khyber deep within the mountains, resonating with her in gentle waves. The Khyber called to all who were sensitive to the Force, its song one of harmony and balance. Some said the first Jedi Masters had walked these valleys in search of truth and clarity. Lyra stood silently now, imagining their footsteps overlapping with her own. A flock of sky-dwelling birds wheeled overhead, their feathers catching stray rays of sunlight, casting fleeting patterns on the pale rocks. Lyra closed her eyes, counting their calls, letting herself become small and still, one presence among many in this living tapestry. The hum of the temple's bells drifted on the wind, a low, resonant tone that welcomed the new day, awakening slumbering spirits and coaxing blooms from midnight cold soil. She let herself be lulled by the gentle cycling of breath in and out, her heart steady, her thoughts slow as the shadows receded. Lyra's master, Saris Oberon, a kindly Mirialan with emerald green skin, waited somewhere ahead, carrying both patience and the quiet certainty of dawn. Today, she would begin the sacred journey to find her own Kyber crystal. Today, the first tiny step would be taken toward forging the weapon of light she had dreamed of since childhood. Though questions curled inside Lyra's chest, she felt a profound sense of readiness, as if the stones and sky themselves were guiding her onward. Time was soft here. The light grew stronger as the world awoke, and Lyra opened her eyes to greet it. Every texture, each blade of dry grass, every scratch in the weathered path invited her attention. She did not hurry as she turned from the edge of the plateau. With a final, grateful breath, Lyra walked toward the ruins, with hope gentle as morning itself, knowing that her story, like all stories on Jeddah, began with quiet, careful steps. Stone stairs wound downward from the plateau, each step worn smooth by countless generations. Lyra descended slowly, her boots whispering over ancient dust, her mind attentive to the song of her own movement. In the stillness, she heard the murmur of the wind passing between pillars, the sound soft as breath, measured and serene. Such quiet was a kind of blessing in this sacred place, where noise carried the weight of intention and silence was a form of respect. At the base of the stairs stood Master Saris Oberon, robe billowing gently in the morning breeze. His hands, so often seen guiding with subtle gestures, now rested in front of him, fingers lightly pressing together. With skin the color of green jade and patient eyes flecked with amber, Master Saris radiated a calm more powerful than any spoken word. He greeted Lyra with a nod, lips curving into a small smile that seemed to settle any nervousness lingering inside her. "Breathe, Lyra," Saris said, voice low and melodic. "The path begins not with haste, but with awareness. What do you feel?" He gestured to the space around them, encouraging her to reach beyond what eyes alone could see. Searching for words, Lyra paused and let her senses expand. The air shimmered with hidden life. Behind Ceres, pale blue moths hovered over desert blossoms, their wings pulsing like miniature hearts. In the distance, the faint scent of incense drifted from the temple's high windows, mingling with the aroma of warm stone. Every surface, every movement, seemed imbued with a silent significance. "I feel everything," she whispered at last. "The song of the Khyber, the cold stone, the sun, how it stretches across the ruins. I even hear the moths." This truth surprised Lyra, and her smile bloomed, slow and wide. Ceres nodded approvingly, setting a gentle hand on Lyra's shoulder. "And in listening, you become part of the pattern. That's the first lesson. You will not find your Khyber by searching as one searches for a lost trinket. Instead, you'll allow it to find you, by becoming so quietly present that every crystal in the mountain recognizes you as kin." His words made Lyra feel light, as if the weight of expectation slipped away, replaced by the simple duty to be aware. Side by side, the master and his Padawan walked into the heart of the ruins. Their feet pressed tracks in sand as pale as milk, but soon any trace would vanish with the shifting breeze. They passed a broken arch, delicate birds' nests tucked into crevices, tiny eggs glimmering with the sheen of sunrise. Every ruin whispered of the people who had come before, each step an invitation to remember their stories. A gentle well opened ahead, rimmed in carved stone. Delicate streams of light fell into its depths, catching flecks of mica and dust. Lyra paused, peering inside. The bottom was a tapestry of roots and tangled brambles. Water shimmered there, reflecting both her face and the clouds drifting overhead. Somewhere far below, she imagined, hidden pockets of Khyber grew, waiting not for forcefulness, but for a question, a song, a willingness to listen. Ceres guided her on, eyes kind and attentive. "The force flows through all things, Lyra. It is not distant, nor reserved for the wise. Feel it in the rock, the wind, the breath between heartbeats. Today is not a test, but a homecoming. Go softly and trust what comes." Together they moved forward, deeper into the ruins and into the slow magic of the morning. Every heartbeat and every breath a silent offering to the listening stones. Lyra and Master Ceres made their way to the Temple of the Khyber, rising from the plateau like an outstretched hand. The building shimmered in the morning's gentle radiance. Arches soared, and the domed roof glowed gold where it caught the sunlight. Sandstone steps led to the temple's grand threshold, each block carved with meditative figures and stylized stars. Pilgrims came and went, robes brushing the ground in reverent procession. Their faces were marked by that same attentive calm that had settled upon Lyra's spirit. The temple's entrance was flanked by two massive statues with serene expressions and upraised palms. Time had softened their features, but nothing could erode the dignity written in every line. Master Ceres paused before them, bowing his head. Lyra did likewise, her gesture a silent promise of respect. Together, the pair crossed into the shadowy coolness within. At first, the world shrank to a hush. Light slanted through high windows, catching on plumes of incense rising in curling patterns. Each step fell upon mosaic floors crafted from fragments of old crystals. Beneath Lyra's feet, blues and greens flickered in subtle geometric shapes. Every sense was invited to quiet, footsteps muffled, voices hushed to whispers and prayers. A procession of monks moved along the inner corridor, chanting rhythmic syllables in a language forgotten by most. Their voices flowed in gentle waves, one note rising as the next diminished, never abrupt or jarring. The melody seemed to resonate in Lyra's chest, echoing the steady pulse of the force that suffused the sacred chamber. The lingering scent of sage and old parchment mingled with the elusive sweetness of wildflowers tucked in offering alcoves. They walked toward the inner sanctum, where an altar of rough-hewn stone stood encircled by slender columns. Each column was wrapped in bands of copper, corroded to green by centuries of silent guardianship. Sunbeams slipped through cracks high above, scattering motes so luminous they seemed like falling stars. Lyra reached out, trailing her fingers lightly over the stone, and felt an answering hum, a vibration at the edge of consciousness, neither sound nor tremor, but a sensation of welcome. Ceres knelt before the altar, folding his hands with care. Lyra followed, knees pressed to the cool mosaic, palms open in her lap. Silence settled once more, as vast and profound as the star fields glimpsed before sleep. The moment was unhurried. Here, nothing rushed. In the quiet, the temple revealed its secrets through small miracles. The breath of wind that found its way in, lifting a strand of Lyra's hair. The gentle warmth that spread from the altar, as though it remembered every hand to ever rest upon it. There were jars of mountain water placed at the feet of the columns, their surfaces smooth as glass. Nearby, a pair of children placed gently glowing pebbles among the offerings, a gesture of hope for wisdom, not just for themselves but for all beings. Master Ceres's voice returned, softer than before. The temple bears witness. Each Jedi who comes here leaves a trace, like moss growing in a shaded hollow. You are part of an ongoing song, Lyra. Today, you add your own note. Lyra's eyes closed, her attention drifting as she listened for the pulse within the stones, the soft echo of lives gone and yet to come. The weight of tradition did not feel crushing. Rather, it felt like being held within a story vast and gentle, written in light instead of words. When her eyes opened again, Lyra knew she stood at the threshold of her own small piece of legend, ready to follow wherever the Kyber's call would lead her. After paying their respects inside the temple's heart, Lyra and her master stepped quietly out to the pilgrim's garden. This was a sanctuary nestled between the outer walls and the winding approach, a place for travelers and seekers to pause, breathe, and listen. Dew still jeweled the fringes of drought-hardy shrubs, thin drops sparkling like bits of fractured Kyber. Silent pilgrims tended low beds of desert flowers, star-shaped acillas and purplish yethra that bloomed in spirals beneath the heat of the Jeddan sun. A winding stream, no wider than a child's hand, trickled along carefully laid stones, feeding a round reflection pool at the garden's center. Birds flickered in and out of the tangled greenery, their wings bright against leaf and stone. Lyra watched as one of the caretakers, a wizened woman in sand-colored robes, bent gently to coax a delicate blossom closer to the light. Her movements were so patient that Lyra found herself unconsciously matching the rhythm, her breathing and heartbeats slowing to the tempo of the garden. The gardener met Lyra's eyes and gifted her a kindly nod before returning to her quiet work. Nature honors stillness, Ceres murmured, placing his palm flat on a sun-warmed boulder. Even the smallest root listens before it grows. Jedi are keepers, not of noise, but of balance. He invited Lyra to join him beside the reflection pool, where sunlight wove itself through silvery leaves to cast intricate patterns on the water's surface. The pool was neither large nor deep, but its presence seemed to still time itself. Tiny insects skimmed across, barely breaking the tension of the shimmering skin. Lyra leaned forward, entranced by the way the sky and the distant domes of the temple joined hands in the water's mirror. If she held perfectly still, even her own reflection grew clear and steady, no longer distorted by ripples of doubt or distraction. In this gentle pause, Ceres retrieved a simple wooden flute from his robe. He lifted it to his lips and played a harmony so soft that it seemed woven from the same silence that ruled the temple. The notes drifted outward in spirals, rising to the company of birds overhead. Each sound was an invitation, a reminder that creation is not always grand, but often made of quiet patterns repeated with intention. The garden, for all its peace, was alive with small wonders. A pair of lizards sunned themselves on a warm flagstone. A beetle lifted mica-speckled wings. The wind itself shaped a low improvisational waltz among the tough desert grass. Lyra felt her shoulders loosen. The anxiety she had carried that morning dissolved, replaced by a profound trust that whatever happened next would unfold in its proper time. "See how the light touches even the smallest stone," Ceres whispered, setting the flute down across his knees. "Each moment here is a gift to your senses. Let them open. Let your heart open." Lyra reached down and dipped her fingers into the cool surface of the pool. The chill was sharp at first, but softened into a gentle tingling. She imagined the ripples traveling outward, touching every living thing in the garden, then radiating still further, beyond the temple's walls, across the city's sleeping stones, and toward the caverns where the Kyber awaited. Her path was not a line, but a dance, a soft weaving from moment to moment, guided by curiosity and patience. When she at last withdrew her hand and wiped it on her robe, she felt steadier, as if the garden's calm had entered her veins. With a quiet smile, Lyra rose, ready to follow her master to the journey's next gentle step. The approach to the Kyber caverns wound through a series of narrow canyons, where the air cooled and thickened beneath overhanging rock. Lyra and Ceres walked side by side, the master's stride measured and unhurried. Sand crunched beneath their boots, and the world seemed to grow quieter with each step, sounds swallowed up by the ancient hush that ruled beneath the surface of Jeddah. As the walls closed in, streaks of color appeared, ribbons of ochre and deep rust threading through pale stone. Moss clung in shaded crevices, drinking what little water managed to collect overnight. A lone sunbeam caught a patch of crystal embedded in the canyon wall, refracting a fleeting rainbow across Ceres's outstretched hand. He paused, watching as the colors played over his skin, then offered his palm for Lyra's inspection. "It is a reminder," he said, "that the Force manifests in beauty, not merely in power." Lyra traced the shifting colors with one finger, and for a moment she felt as if she stood on the edge of something vast and welcoming, a sense of belonging, both inside herself and in the matrix of living worlds that drew breath across Jeddah's quiet lands. Moving forward, they reached the mouth of the caverns, a gentle slope leading underground, guarded only by wind-brushed ferns and a circle of worn stepping stones. They paused at the threshold. Here, Master Ceres offered Lyra a small lamp, its glow tinged with blue from fragments of cast-off kyber. She accepted it with grateful hands, watching the way its light illuminated not just the stony path ahead, but also the iridescent veining in the rocks around her. Each step downward brought a gentle echo, as if the cavern itself hummed acknowledgement of their presence. Within, moisture condensed on every surface. Lyra inhaled deeply, marveling at the subtle coolness, a world of mineral and life hidden just below the sun-blasted skin of Jeddah. The lamp's light danced over silent pools and crags, collecting impatient drips that rang like distant bells when they found their way to water. Invisible insects whispered along the ceilings, unseen wings beating the slow rhythm of chambered air. Deeper still, the cavern's silence grew. Lyra listened, her pulse syncing with the gentle drip of water and the shifting sigh of rock cooling. Something in the silence called her inward, not as a command, but as a gentle request for greater listening. She stopped, relinquishing the need to fill the quiet with questions, and instead became a vessel for what was already present. Ceres, behind her, rested a hand comfortingly on her shoulder. The crystals listen, Lyra. Your quiet is their invitation. She nodded, pressing onward, following curves in the stone that mirrored the ancient riverbeds above. Glints of unrevealed crystals flickered in the distance, tempting but untouchable for now. Her journey had entered a deeper layer, one where the ordinary senses gave way to an inner awareness, a willingness to see without eyes and know without words. In the heart of the cavern, Lyra's lamp shone out and the world contracted to a sphere of blue light and stillness. Slowly, comfortably, she let herself settle onto the smooth stone, drawing her knees to her chest and hugging herself against the gentle chill. The force was here, thick as dew and patient as bedrock, weaving her into the silence where the true journey would begin. Lyra sat quietly in the darkness of the cavern, her lamp set on the ground, its soft glow haloing her in gentle blue. Master Ceres lowered himself nearby, folding into meditation with the ease of long practice. The only sounds were the breathing of patient earth and the gentle, living rhythm of water seeking its path down into the unknown. For a while, Lyra allowed her mind to drift, observing each sensation without pressing or clinging. The stone under her felt ancient, older than any building on Jeddah, older than the stories sung in the temple above. She pressed her palm to it, feeling the subtle pulse beneath the surface, a warmth barely perceived but certain in its persistence. If she held her breath, she could imagine that the rock itself was a living organism, awake and aware in a manner slower and deeper than any creature. The blue lamp flickered, casting arcing shadows on the walls. Lyra stilled her thoughts further, concentrating on her breath, the slow in and out, a tide that carried her ever deeper inside herself. She counted her heartbeats, letting them fall in line with the erratic trickle of water from a distant stalactite. Each gentle drop echoed through Lyra's core, calling her to tune herself until she resonated with this deep calm. Sitting there, Lyra began to sense the subtle song of the kyber, so faint at first that she thought it only her imagination. But the longer she listened, the more certain she became that an answering presence moved in the darkness. It did not call to her in words or images, but in feelings, a yearning warmth, a sense of waiting, as if the crystals slept lightly, just beneath the boundaries of waking. All she had to do was be patient enough to witness its dream. Ceres opened his eyes, watching his Padawan without interference, his expression affirming that this work was her own. Lyra smiled inwardly, grateful for the trust woven into his quiet. Here, deep beneath surface clamor and sunlight, the nature of her spirit was mirrored in the stone's unmoving patience, a lesson spoken with no need for speech. Gradually, the song came clearer, more distinguishable from the natural quiet of the cavern. It shimmered in the focus just behind Lyra's brow, a high, harmonious hum, its notes simple yet resonant, like a lullaby passed from mother to child. She leaned into it, not hurrying, not grasping, accepting the invitation to be as still as the depths themselves. Colors blossomed in her mind's eye, golds and blues, greens and whites, shifting and weaving in gentle rhythm. She felt herself dissolve into the mosaic, a part of the greater tapestry that reached back across eons of Jedi and Kyber, master and apprentice, world and sky. Every slight motion, every patient pause, felt significant. The force moved here, not as a gale, but as a mild, persistent breeze, shaping her story with the tenderest hand. Somewhere in the stone, the Kyber's awareness brushed against her own, cool and soothing as a river crossing sand. Lyra did not press. She waited, gently listening, letting her heart fill with the quiet certainty that when the time came, the crystal would awake, a mutual recognition forged in the space beyond words. The cavern's silence deepened as Lyra's focus harmonized with the song just beneath the stone's surface. Hours might have passed, though time lost shape under gentle, blue-lit shadows. The chill of the cave warmed softly as Lyra surrendered to stillness, and for a moment she imagined herself not just as a visitor, but as one of the countless stories held in the cavern walls. Then, so faint that it might have been a memory, a single vibration arose within the bedrock. It pulsed with the power of new life, humming in quiet cycles, a rhythm that matched the beating of Lyra's heart. She reached out, not with hands, but with the soft presence of her intent, and the vibration grew stronger in answer. A gentle light shimmered from a dark corner near her feet. At first, it was no brighter than a firefly, but as her attention sharpened, it swelled, twining around patterns in the rock like morning dew around the tips of grass. Lyra did not move quickly. She watched, entranced by the way the light formed a winding path toward her outstretched palm. A hush filled her chest, and she held her breath, unwilling to disturb the delicate dance between awareness and stone. The Kyber crystal made its presence known in other ways, a warmth seeping from the heart of the rock, a sense of buoyancy rising from the soles of Lyra's feet. The crystal's hum was clear now, multi-voiced, singing not just with her, but with every living thing it had ever touched. It offered invitation rather than command, a mutual becoming rather than a transaction. Smiling softly, Lyra let her hand rest against the cave floor, palm open. The force guided her movements, gentle and unforced. As she pressed her fingers into a shallow divot in the stone, something smooth and cool met her touch, a piece of the world so precious that she felt a flood of gratitude before her eyes even opened to see it. There in the dim light, nestled among shards of stone, sat a Kyber crystal, elongated, with facets shifting through an internal spectrum of blue indigo, and palest jade. It glowed with its own pale light, one that seemed to steady Lyra's breathing, even as it brightened the cavern. The Padawan's eyes filled with gentle awe. She did not rush to take the crystal, but simply cupped it, feeling its slow pulse joining her own. Above, a drip of water found its way down, landing softly on the crystal, making it gleam. For a long, sweet moment, Lyra and the Kyber crystal simply sat together, their awarenesses mingling. It felt as though she had found a piece of home that she had not known she was missing. From across the small chamber, Master Ceres watched, his own countenance lit by quiet approval. He said nothing, knowing that words would only dilute the profound quietude of the moment. The force was here, embracing both the seeker and the sought, as a gentle affirmation that when one listens, the universe often whispers in reply. With infinite tenderness, Lyra lifted the crystal to her heart. Its song settled into a gentle lull within her, a reminder that every small wonder is born of attention, patience, and trust. For the first time, she understood how a Jedi's journey began, not in grand achievements, but in the calm recognition of beauty revealed by stillness. With the Kyber crystal nestled in a cloth at her breast, Lyra followed Master Ceres out from the cavern's heart, climbing slowly into the brighter world above. Warmth returned in layers, sunlight filtering through the winding mouth of stone. The very air felt changed, softer, somehow kinder, bearing with it the scent of moss and a trace of mineral tang. Back in the temple's southern wing, a quiet workshop waited, its shelves lined with ancient tools, each carefully etched with sigils and waves. Here, masters and Padawans shaped hilts for generations, the stone walls recalling every song, every secret, every lesson learned in patience. Light fell through a high round window, painting intricate patterns on work tables worn smooth by loving hands. Master Ceres, ever gentle, arranged tools for his student, a slender rasp for shaping metal, a packet of rare adhesives, soft brushes for dusting away filings. There was no haste. Each item was placed with such mindfulness that Lyra herself felt no urge to hurry. She peered at the fine wires, the fragments of bronze, the slender rods of treated wood and bone. Her hands moved carefully, delighting in the textures and subtle variations. The design is not a matter of preference, Lyra, Ceres reminded, his voice calm as a late afternoon breeze. The hilt grows from your story, an answer to the nature of the crystal. Ask not what is most impressive, but what fits your hand and soul. Lyra ran her fingers over a length of smooth electrum, then over a darker strip of wood. She paused and closed her eyes, allowing the crystal's hum to vibrate in her chest, a guide as gentle as a mother's hand on a child's cheek. Guided more by intuition than conscious thought, she chose a slender piece of polished wood for the body of the hilt, accented with inlays of bronze and small beds for the threading of energy wires. The process unfolded as a form of meditation. Lyra rasped, shaped, and smoothed, every stroke unhurried. She felt the crystal's presence throughout, soft and reassuring, a sympathetic song that deepened her focus. Every sound in the workshop became part of the moment, the whisper of metal on wood, the quiet tap of her fingertips as she fitted the crystal into its niche, the thin, bright ring of a dropped nut echoing down the rows of benches. Morning faded toward noon, Fragrant fumes of sandalwood and myrrh floated through the open door, mingling with the scent of warmed metal. Lyra took breaks often, pausing to admire the shifting play of light on the nearly finished hilt. She took care to polish each edge, smoothing every seam until it fit so naturally in her grasp that its shape seemed inevitable, a meeting place of intention and discovery. Master Ceres offered sparse suggestions, never intruding but always nearby, presence steady as the tick of a clock. He watched as Lyra inlaid the strip of bronze, his approval an unspoken gift. Occasionally he brought her water or offered a handful of dried fruit, their gestures as calm as breeze through an open window. With every moment, Lyra felt a happiness that was neither elation nor pride, but the deep, quiet joy of making something loving and true. The hilt, now complete, was more than a weapon's handle. It was a poem in form and function, a vessel for her partnership with the living heart of Khyber that would soon blaze forth as light. Afternoon light filtered gently through the tall windows of the workshop, growing softer and more golden as the sun began its descent. Atop her work table, Lyra cradled her nearly completed Saber hilt, its polished wood and delicately embossed bronze gleaming in the tranquil glow. The Padawan's hands moved lightly over every curve, ensuring each seam was flush, every groove smooth to the touch. This final act would join her dreams to the song of the Force itself. Master Ceres stood quietly behind, observing with the steady assurance of one who understands the gravity of small rituals. He placed a linen cloth upon the work table, setting on it a lacquered case containing the rare focusing lens that would shape the blade. "Take your time, Lyra," Ceres whispered. "Listen to your heart. Let the joining be as gentle as dawn itself." Lyra took a moment to breathe, feeling the weight of her intentions settle into every muscle, every fingertip. The Khyber crystal rested in the palm of her hand, glowing faintly where warmth touched it. It sang a wordless tune, pulses of light blooming in time with the calm rhythm of Lyra's breath. She nestled the crystal into the hilt's heart, aligning its facets with the focusing lens, then threaded the fine wires with patient fingers. The world seemed to fall away, leaving only the work and the soft susurration of existence itself. She recalled stories the elders had told, of sabers forged in haste which never sang true, weapons that quarreled against their bearers rather than partnering in grace. Lyra's every movement asked permission. The crystal warmed, acknowledging her care. The hilt, so recently only a shape, now felt alive. When the last wire found its home and the final focusing cap clicked perfectly into place, a sense of profound unity spilled through her, a momentary suspension of time. Master Ceres stepped forward, bowing his head. "May the Force join your spirit to this blade, and may it serve not as a weapon, but as a guide for generations yet to come." He placed his palm over Lyra's, and together they closed their eyes. In the hush that followed, Lyra reached out with the Force, touching the deep, singing heart of the crystal. Images flickered behind her eyelids, twisting roots, sunrise over silent ruins, smooth water reflecting the endless sky. These images were not memories, but promises, of a life lived in harmony, light wielded not in haste but in hope. A soft click signaled completion. Lyra exhaled, her relief and gratitude blending with the exaltation of the Force. The saber lay heavy and sure in her hand. She did not ignite it yet. Instead, she simply held it, letting the sensations and meanings rise and settle, like the gentle stirring of soil before the shooting of a seed. Sunlight drifted further down the wall, lengthening stripes of gold and shadow. The day had grown soft around them, and all of Jeddah seemed to pause in witness to the joining of crystal, hilt, and heart. Lyra glanced at her master, and in the quiet affirmation of his smile, she understood that her journey, though far from ended, had revealed its most radiant form in these patient, wondering acts. At last, Lyra lifted her creation to the window and let it catch the last true glow of afternoon, knowing the light she had shaped would now shape her in kind. Evening fell gently across Jeddah, painting the temple's towers in long shadows and glimmering lines of amber. A hush settled over the world as pilgrims retreated to chambers, and the city's stones cooled beneath the serene expanse of gathering dusk. Lyra cradled her lightsaber as one might hold a child, wrapped in wonderment, the hilt whispering warmth into her palms. Master Ceres accompanied her to a secluded courtyard, framed on three sides by arching colonnades. Wind wound through the pillars, carrying the distant echo of evening bells and the scent of flowering Yethra. High above, pale stars blinked to life, peeking through streaks of cirrus, their light just visible beyond the curtain of sunset gold. Lyra moved with slow grace, the saber as much a part of her as her own heartbeat. "Are you ready?" Ceres's question was soft, a mere brush of sound on tranquil air. Lyra nodded, her voice caught in her throat, an admixture of humility and quiet anticipation. She stepped into the center of the courtyard, where polished stones reflected the first hints of nightfall, and paused. For a moment, she listened, not to the chatter of thought or doubt, but to the steady, luminous bond she now shared with the saber's heart. She pressed the activation plate. For a breath, nothing changed. Then, a beam of blue-white light sprang forth, bathing the world in gentle radiance. It made no ferocious sound, only a low, harmonious hum, neither intrusive nor boastful, but deeply, organically resonant. The blade shimmered, its core steady, its edges alive and fluid, flickering like a living thread of starlight. Lyra moved the saber through the air, each movement slow, reverent, measured. The blade cut a graceful wake, illuminating the courtyard in soft pulses. Dust motes swirled, catching the blue glow as they danced upward on invisible eddies. One by one, night-blooming flowers stirred beneath the light, responding in subtle gestures of opening. Their petals, glossed with dew, became mirrors for the saber's glow. Master Ceres watched in silence, his presence a benediction rather than an interruption. He smiled, knowing that this first lighting was more than ritual. It was a declaration to the world that something wonderful had been coaxed from patience, care, and abiding trust. Lyra let the blade retract, savoring the closing note of the crystal's song, a soft, receding melody that lingered like the aftertaste of honeyed tea. Darkness reclaimed the courtyard, but it felt gentler now, as though honored by the light it had hosted. The Padawan lowered her hilt, clasping it with both hands and bowing her head. There was no need for grand gestures, no proclamation of accomplishment. Gentle pride filled her, a pride born not of achievement, but of harmony. She had journeyed through quiet stone and listening silence. She had reached gently for her destiny, and the light had answered. Starlight grew bolder above them. The world slowed, and Lyra felt the hush of Jeddah embrace her, Saber warm and steady in her hands. Together, apprentice and master left the courtyard, walking back beneath arches softened by moonrise, peace blooming in their wake. The city lay cloaked in midnight's embrace, its domes and alleyways softened by indigo and dream. Lyra watched from the temple's high terrace, the saber resting in her lap, her whole being suffused by the quiet triumph of the day. The tiled surface was cool beneath her robes, holding the last memory of the sun's heat before surrendering fully to the chill of night. A light breeze moved through the open colonnade, making the banners at the edge flutter with soft, lazy grace. The wind smelled of distant stone, new blooms, and the cold purity that signaled night's deepest hours. Lyra drew her knees up and hugged them close, feeling the steady rise and fall of her breath. Above, the heavens turned slowly, the sharp edge of the crescent moon trailing clouds in its wake. Master Ceres remained nearby, his own meditation silent and composed, his eyes closed in gentle communion with the sleeping world. From time to time, the sounds of Jeddah's inhabitants reached them, an avian night call, the far-off scrape of a wagon, a laughing voice drifting and fading. These fragments were stitched into the city's vast, slumbering tapestry. Lyra gazed at the kyber crystal now sealed within her saber, its presence a gentle glow that never quite faded. She remembered the softness of the cavern, the endless patience of stone, the slow dance of images on the water in the pilgrim's garden. There were no sudden revelations now, only the deep pleasure of being exactly where she was, filled with gratitude for every small step. When the wind grew brisk, carrying a scatter of flower petals across her lap, Lyra cupped them in her hand and studied their veined perfection. Each petal was a universe, with flecks of color so delicate they seemed almost imagined. Lyra smiled, sensing that nothing was too small for wonder to attend. "Peace comes in the listening," Ceres murmured, his voice breaking the silence only to add to it. "Every ending is a beginning in disguise. Sit with the world as it is, and let it teach you what it means to rest." Lyra looked up at the sky, watching a meteor streak briefly, a brushstroke of silver against velvet indigo. She did not make a wish, but simply allowed it to pass through her consciousness like another note in the melody of the night. Her saber, now a companion rather than an aspiration, pulsed faintly at her side. Its energy was neither loud nor consuming, but woven deeply into her spirit, anchoring her in the present. Lyra let her head nod forward, eyes slipping closed, as the music of the city joined the hush within her own mind. Wind played through her hair, and for the first time since her journey began, Lyra felt herself utterly at rest. The force, in its most gentle and enveloping form, sang her into tranquility. Stones, wind, and light all accompanied her into a sleep as deep and unbroken as the silence at Jeddah's heart. The first blush of morning crept over the temple's high terrace, touching every edge with gold. Lyra stirred from dreams limned with blue crystal light, awareness feathering forth with the slow, sweet luxury of first waking. Her breath matched the rhythm of the dawn, slow and easy. The saber rested in her lap, quiet as a sleeping bird. The world outside was gentled by mist. Domes and minarets softened, outlines blurred into the soft promise of another day. Dew lay on every stone, transforming each tile into a landscape of miniature trembling worlds. A lone moth fluttered by, its wings opalescent in the newborn sun. From the garden below, the gentle chirp of lyra birds wove a hymn of awakening. Lyra sat up slowly, limbs warm and heavy with contentment. The Saber's presence had woven its calm into her sleep, a soft assurance that light, once found, would never truly leave her. She watched the interplay of early sunlight with the hilt's inlays and felt the crystal's silent regard, a loving echo that outlasted any spoken vow. Master Ceres appeared in the archway, silhouette haloed with morning's gold. He offered Lyra a mug of tea, its steam perfumed with desert herbs. She took it, cradling its warmth between chilly fingers, the taste grounding and sweet. Ceres lowered himself beside her, their silence ripe with ease. Today, you walk as one who has invited the Force into every breath, Ceres remarked, eyes kind and deep. Let that be your first meditation, always. Quiet in waking, attentive in wandering, grateful even in sleep. From their high vantage, the city came gradually to life, soft bells ringing, the slow procession of pilgrims threading the temple stairs. Shadows retreated before the sun, pooling under arches and ancient roots. Lyra watched as a group of children raced laughing through the garden's pathways, weaving stories into the day as children always do. She finished her tea and closed her eyes briefly, pressing the saber close to her heart. There was no grand quest ahead now, only gentle continuance, patient practice, and the daily renewal of vows written in patient light. The warmth in her chest was not the flare of accomplishment, but the steady ember of belonging to the temple, to Jeddah, to the living web of all things. For a while, Lyra simply listened to the waking song of birds, the slow footfalls of monks, the gentle, rising hum of the city. She let herself be held by the morning, by the certainty that every small detail, dew on stone, breath in lungs, light on Khyber, was worthy of reverence. As the final wisps of mist dispersed, the world revealed itself anew. Lyra rose, stretching with a slow, sleepy grace, lightsaber in hand and heart at peace. With Master Ceres at her side, she walked into the softened dawn, leaving footsteps that were, for a little while, perfect in the dew, each one a promise to walk in gentle wonder through all her days, beginning, as always, with the simple act of listening to the light.